You want to stop drinking, but the idea of never being able to drink again might seem overwhelming. If that sounds like you, you're in luck, because today I'm talking about how to get past the fear of not drinking. Hi, my name is Alex Rivera, and not that long ago, I was in your shoes. That I knew that I needed to stop drinking. But drinking was built in my day-to-day life and in my social life, and I used drinking as a coping mechanism for a lot of the strong emotions and the stress and the anxiety of my day-to-day life. So the idea of not being able to drink altogether, even though I knew my life was getting to a point where things were getting out of control and my life was truly in danger, it still seemed like almost impossible to do. So you see, I struggle with the idea of why I can't drink. I'm an adult and everybody else seems to be drinking, and why is it me that's always getting into trouble and drinking too much and drinking when nobody's around? Why is it me that is not able to drink normally? So this idea of why was holding me back from moving in the direction that I knew I needed to take my life, because things were getting really, really bad. What I learned in time was the how was a more important question than the why. Because you see, you might never find out why you're not able to drink like other people do. I mean, you might, but you might never. So just waiting to find out a reason might just stop you from getting better. How became a lot more important. How am I going to stay stopped? How am I going to start feeling better? How am I going to be able to cope with these strong feelings without alcohol? So learning how as part of the recovery process became a lot more important. And even though every so often I still get nagged by the idea of, why me? Why can't I do this like the other people can? That has taken a second place, because now my life is in a much better situation and I'm not waiting to get all the answers in order to heal. So that's my first piece of insight. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know why things are happening or, why are you feeling the way you're feeling in order to move in the direction of health and in the direction where you're putting your life back together. The next challenge is this idea of never ever being able to drink again. Because if you were like me, you used alcohol very frequently, probably on a daily basis, and just not being able to use alcohol ever again seems like an impossibility. So for this, I will tell you that you don't have to decide to stop drinking forever now, today. You can punt on that decision. So what I advise you to do is to use the new car technique, which is, when you buy a new car, you take it for a test ride. Before you buy it, you try it. So what I recommend you do is pick a date when you decide that you're going to stop drinking and let somebody else know, so for some accountability, let somebody who's close to you, who cares about you, of your decision, and pick a meaningful period of time that would allow you to experience life without alcohol. And I would recommend this to be a minimum of 3 months, or it could be 6 or 9 months, whatever you feel like you're able to deal with right now. And the idea here is for you to learn some of the coping mechanisms, some of the techniques, to learn about yourself, to learn about how to deal with strong emotions, so you are better prepared to stop drinking altogether if you so decide to do later on. So it's not just about abstaining from drinking and white knuckling, it's about learning how to deal and how to cope without alcohol. If at the end of this time frame you feel like this is not for you, you can pick up drinking again, can't you? And the only thing that you lost were those nasty headaches after a long night of drinking, right? So, and the important thing is, during the period of time where you're not going to be drinking, you're going to be working towards sobriety. Does that make sense? Now, when I finally made the decision to stop drinking, I had to learn a lot of things in order to learn how to stay stopped. And one of the first exercises that I did as part of the intensive outpatient program that I signed up to was something called a cost-benefit analysis. You might have come across this type of analysis in business where you're trying to compare two business ideas or two options, or when you're trying to purchase two different things, you look at the pros and the cons of each of these options. The cost-benefit analysis exercise that I am talking about is very similar. This is best done on pen and paper, and is usually done kind of like in a group setting where a lot of people can chime in and build the picture of this cost-benefit analysis. In the case of recovery, you're looking at the pros and cons of drinking or drugging or any other activity that is causing you harm. So in this case, we're going to look at what are some of the pros of drinking. And this might sound funny, but drinking has some benefits for you, doesn't it? Because if it didn't, you wouldn't do it. So obviously alcohol is doing something for you. So the idea here is to identify where some of these pros. So for example, you might be drinking because it gives you relief of some stressful situation or strong emotion, or because it helps you to be with friends and socialize. Perhaps it helps you with social anxiety. So there are a number of reasons why you are drinking. So you have to be honest about it and write down what are some of the pros of drinking. Next, you're going to write down some of the cons of drinking. So, some of the cons might be problems with your family, problems at work, financial, legal problems. Whatever it is that you've been experiencing in your life recently, you might want to write as a con. Now, on the next column, we're going to look at the cons of not drinking. Okay, that sounds even funnier because, we're talking about not drinking. So what could be a con of not drinking? Well, if there is a reason why we're drinking and not drinking, is because not drinking has some cons. So for example, you might not have a way of coping with those strong emotions because alcohol provides you with immediate relief. And if you don't, you might feel like these very strong emotions might just kill you. So there are cons of not drinking. You might also feel like if you don't drink, you might not be able to hang out with your friends, or they might not be able to accept you if you don't drink with them. So there are a number of reasons why not drinking might seem like a con to you right now. And it's important for you to identify this. So write 5, 6, 7 things that you can see as a con for not drinking. Finally, write a list of the pros of not drinking. What are some of the benefits that you can see if you were to stop drinking? Things like not making, a fool of yourself in a social situation, or not missing work, or feeling better, not waking up with a nasty hangover, or, not having so many legal trouble because of your drinking. So make a list of the things that you see would be beneficial if you were to stop drinking. See, the whole idea here is to create a picture of the pros and cons of not drinking and of drinking, so you can make an informed decision about whether you want to stop and stay stopped. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to give you what we find out after we run this exercise. And as my recovery facilitator, I've done this exercise many, many times with many groups of people at this point. And I'm just going to tell you what happens because it's just so important and so eye-opening for a lot of people. I know it was for me. What you find out when you run through these scenarios is that a lot of the pros for drinking are short-term, are usually very short-term pros. You might get immediate relief from your strong emotions. You might be able to hang out with your friends and have a good time, but then you have to pay for it the next day. So the pros tend to be very short-term, whereas the cons tend to be very long-term. because you might have said something that you regret. You might have acted in a way that you regret. You might have done some damage to relationships or to yourself. And if you've been drinking for a very long period of time, you're definitely doing harm to your body. So the cons of drinking are long-term, whereas the pros are usually very short-term. Now, when you look at the pros of not drinking, the pros are usually long-term because you're able to not get into so much trouble. Maybe you have the bandwidth to talk and to fix the relationship issues that you've been having because of all the drinking. You're able to work on yourself and in your health. So not drinking has a lot of benefits that have a long-term impact. And the cons of not drinking are usually, yes, you guessed it, short term, because you might feel like if you don't drink, you might explode or something, but usually that is not the case. And in time, you will have learned coping mechanisms that are much more helpful and healthy than drinking. So the impact not drinking are usually short term if you're doing the work towards sobriety. So this type of exercise may allow you to see your drinking for what it is and might help you to understand yourself and how you're currently using alcohol and how alcohol is affecting your life. You don't need to have all the answers in order to decide to stop drinking. And you don't have to decide to never ever stop drinking today. You just have to give it a shot. You have to give it a try. And if it doesn't work for you, then you can just go back and drink. Run this cost-benefit analysis and do this in actual paper because it's very, very useful to actually see it written down and get a dump from your own mind into what you think are the pros and cons of not drinking. So at the end of the day, the idea of all of this is to help you move in a direction where you're putting your life back together and where you can help yourself to make these decisions that will have a positive long-term impact. If you're ready to give sobriety a try, I put together a 5-day plan, which is basically what to do the next 5 days after you decide that you're going to stop drinking. And it's just basically a guide that allows you to follow day by day what are some of the resources, what are some of the things that you can do. And I compile these based on my own experience and that experience of other people that I met in my recovery process, things that I wish I knew when I decided that I wanted to stop drinking. So check it out. I have a link in the description. I also have a link here on screen that you can use this QR code, and it's completely free. There's no charge for it. So just go to this link and you can look at the 5-day plan that I put together. So if you like what you learned today, please check some of my other videos where I talk about other aspects of recovery and sobriety and personal growth that might help you to move in the direction that you want to move today. All right. Also, if you think there is value in this video, please share with somebody else and subscribe to the channel because then you'll get all these other resources that might help you going forward. Thank you for joining me today. And I truly hope that some of these ideas will help you to make the decision to stop drinking, or at the very minimum, to give it a shot. Because your life is too important and you are the only one who can make a difference for yourself. So, thank you for joining me. This is Alex with Activation Energy, and I'll see you soon.